Alright guys, this is going to be a quick one today because I'm actually working on this for my main job. But basically, I had an interesting project that I'm working on for my boss. He's got a 1986 Suzuki Cavalcade that he's looking to get just ready to sell on for the next owner. Already got a couple interested parties, so I'm just giving it a quick once over. You know, just checking to make sure everything's good. And so I had to take a few panels off just to inspect a couple of things that I wanted to look at. So I didn't even think about really filming this until one of my colleagues actually mentioned that it would be a good idea too. So I don't have the disassembly process, but I will show you the reassembly process, and that way you can get, you know, kind of glean how it all goes together. As you can see, there's a lot of trim that comes off of this thing to get it down to here. But really, thing actually just kind of is working fine. I mean, everything's in pretty good shape. It was stored and kept well. It's got like 3,700 miles, or sorry, 37,000 miles on it. But yeah, fires up and runs. So let me show you that, I guess, while we got it here, and then we will start putting it back together. Sorry about that, our air compressor kicked on the last one. But yeah, 1986. Anyway, so I'm gonna get started on putting this thing back together, and I will walk you through how all the panels work and everything as I go. Alright, so first up is gonna be reinstalling these side trims right here. And they go kind of in this area on the side of the bike. So basically you have these rubber plugs right there and right there, and then there's one big screw that goes in that right there, and it's just a Phillips head. So we're gonna basically just push this back into the rubber plugs on the side there, and then put that screw back in. I'll do that on both sides and we'll move on to the next piece. So now that those are on, as you can see, the screw goes in down low there. I'm gonna start by putting this piece back in place. So that straddles between these two panels here and covers this whole section up here, and it kind of tucks in behind the radio up here. You have one screw that comes in up here, which you have to remove this piece to get at. So you end up literally just pulling the grill out of here, undoing the two screws and lifting this up out of the way. That'll give you access to that front screw. It then had two bolts which come in up under here, I think right about where my finger is. Those are 10 mils. There's these little plugs right here that just press in, and that's it. You will see these two little guys here. You don't have to worry about those. Those hold the gas filler flap on. One important note, and we're going to put this slightly earlier in the video because I figured this out too late. This cover appears to have to go in before you put the main shell on. So we're going to show you this earlier in the clip. That way you can catch it before I did, because I have not been able to figure out how to slide this in. It goes onto these two tabs which rock back. They go into these silver channels here, but these hooks will not slip past the screws. So for the time being, I do not feel like taking this cowling off. Frankly, this bike is going to be such a good deal that the next owner can take the 10 minutes to pop the cowling off and put that back in. But for you, make sure you put this back in before you put the main piece on here. So I am now just buttoning this thing up and putting the last little trims on, but figured I would notice that, or show you that, because I failed to notice it while I was putting it back together. Alright, so there were two more Phillips heads that went at the back here. I forgot to mention those before, but the 10 mils do go up in here, and then you end up just plugging it back into these guys as well. On the saddle out here, you got these holes right here, which line up with these right here. So you're going to need to kind of drop it over those. There's two 12 mil bolts that hold that in, and then there's hooks at the front of the saddle that clip into here. That's these guys right here. So when you're taking it off, you actually just push the front back, kind of like down and back out of the way, and and then that'll free up the saddle to where you can kind of lift it up. So you can get this back installed. Oh, and I should mention, for the rear seat, there's a little vacuum line you want to attach there, because this thing has air cushion seats, so you can actually pump the seat up and down. The backrest has them too. Alright, we got the saddle back on now. Like I said, it's just the 2 hooks up front, and then you got the 2 bolts on the side and the air line for the rear seat underneath. So now we're going to get the little top piece here for the handlebars back in place. Very straightforward here. I never actually unplugged the buttons here, but you just drop this back on top. And you got these 2 screws right here that go in place there. They're just Phillips heads. And then there's the little grill that clips in here, which I'll show you in just a sec as well. Alright, those screws are in place. Should also mention, actually, this rubber trim has 2 little pegs. You might want to make sure that's lined up before you put this back on. And then also I put the little trim back around the ignition cylinder. You want to make sure it's oriented this way up so the key reads correctly. I believe it only goes in one way, but just be careful with that. And this is the last little trim piece here. Just clips in place like that. And now we're going to get the lid back on here. We'll see if I can figure out how the heck this goes in. Alright guys, there she is. So, pretty much ready for the next owner. You know, it's going to need a little work, but this was not one where we were planning on getting it perfect. Again, owner just kind of came across this and got it for a good deal, and decided he wasn't really going to ride it and was just looking to move it along. So that being said, I got a couple folks coming to look at it pretty soon, and hopefully they'll get some enjoyment out of it.